Hi guys, it's Emily from Nobel Novels and welcome to today's video. This is my top books of 2024. Now, I have got 15 books to show you. The top 5 are set in stone with their rankings because they are the ones that really stood out to me and they're the ones that I literally have not been able to stop thinking about all year. Although, like, one of them's read recently, just to give you a sneaky peek. But do you know what? It was really set in stone. Like, the favourite book, I didn't think anything could beat it. And I'm still like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to give any clues. But, guys, see if you can predict what my favourite book of the year was, or any book in my top 5. I will say, there's been some surprises. There are no contemporaries in this list. That is the one thing I will tell you. It is all 2 other genres. Actually, there is another genre. But it has really surprised me in my ratings. I think for me, this year has been about 2024 was about comfort reads. So contemporaries were great. A lot of them I've really enjoyed. Like, I really enjoyed Ali McNamara's book. I really enjoyed Heidi Swain, Page 2. I really enjoyed all their works, Cathy Brownlee's, etc. But this year has been a year, 2024 was a year I read a lot of amazing books. And for me, an amazing book is ones that have got in my mind and have not got out. I have got a lot of disability rep in this book and some own voices. So that's another sneaky peek. And I think that for me is another thing that's really stood out. Obviously I did the Spoonies, and in that a lot of some favourite books came out. But I think for me, it really has been about books that I've resonated with, books that have impacted me, books that have given me emotions. And those are the ones I'm showing you today. So, like I said, top 5, set in stone. The other 10, it could be any which way. Their ranking could change no matter what I felt. Like, I just had to go with my gut instincts yesterday. I'm filming this on the 3rd of January, so yes, I'm a little bit late. But I wanted to wait until I read all of the books in 2024. So, here we go. In at number 15 is Destroy the Day by Bridget Kemmerer. This is the first book in a new series. No, it's the 3rd book. It's the only series book, actually. So it's the 3rd book in the Defy the Night series. And it wowed me. I don't think there were any other really series books in this list. But this one really wowed me. It was like, it ended the series so well. It was chunky. They're filming this, I'm about to reread the other series. And the cat's going crazy. But this wrapped up the series so well. I can't tell you too much about it because obviously it is the 3rd in the series, but it really wrapped up the Defy the Night series. And I wasn't as keen on the Defy the Night series. Certainly book 2 was okay, book 1 was brilliant. So book 2 had the sandwich series as number 2. Excuse the cat in the background. But this was really well. I really enjoyed it. I read it at the start of the year and I can't wait to read the next book. And that's the Crazy Cat. Now to another book that's fantasy, and another book that I read this year. I read it with Chatty from the Mad Chatter. You can't film with cats and you can't film with kids. Right, kids been alright. Thomas has been alright. So this is Sleep Like Death by Kaylin Byron. I did enjoy her other book that I read this year, The Wicked Fate, and that has got an honorary mention effectively, but I don't include 2 books by the same author. This is a retelling of, I think it's like Sleeping. It's a retelling. Can't for the life of me think, is it? I don't know if it's Snow White. I think it's like might be Snow White. It's one with the mirror and things like that. And Princess Eve was raised with one purpose, to destroy the night, an evil sorcerer who just terrorises the Queen's Bridge with his wicked magic. Far too many of the subjects have been devastated by the knight's trickery. But Eve's own unique magic, the ability to conjure weapons from nature, makes her a worthy adversary. I know Chatty wasn't as keen on it as I was, but I'm used to the author's writing. Her fantasy is amazing. She's got LGBTQI romances. This isn't that, but there are really good stories, and the cat is really going crazy today. I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was a great book, one that really sort of struck home, and one of my favourite authors. This video could be a while. And then to a book that, again, surprised me. We're obviously doing the Agatha Alice, and this had to be mentioned, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. it is up there with my favourites. Obviously, my favourite books by Agatha are Five Little Pigs, and I think that my favourite book is Five Little Pigs. But this came a really close second. I didn't guess the killer. I didn't guess the narrator. It is one of the first Poirot books. And considering I didn't love A Mysterious Affair at Styles, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd blew my mind. I will still plan to do my Agatha for Alice live. It will be done soon. I'm sorry it's a bit late, and I will talk about that book more then. But this book really impressed me, and I absolutely loved it. It's literally up there with the best Agatha's ever, and I think it would be quite interesting to see if anything can beat this. In at number 12. In at number 12 is Neon Roses by Rachel Dawson. This is an amazing LGBTQI romance, historical fiction. I say it's historical fiction, but it's set in 1984, which was the year that Chris was born. And I was only 5 at the time. But it's a very diverse read. It has quite a lot of saucy scenes in it, so if you don't want saucy scenes, don't read this. But it was done so well. It talked a lot about the miners' strike in Wales in that 1984. It talked about how the LGBTQI movement at the time. It talks about marriage and the pressures to be, you were still having the pressures to be the good girl and get married and everything else. And the clubbing status, it just talks about that era so well, and it really struck home to me. Obviously, I'm not in voices on any of the stuff in this, but it really struck home to me, and I thought it was a fantastic, fantastic historical fiction. And I'm just going to hold that because the cat is flying around. I might have to get Thomas to let her out in a minute. Thomas, do you want to let her out quickly?
I'm not doing that, I'm scared.
He's scared of the cat. Okay, in at number 11 is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. And this was incredible. It's about books. I think it's about coffee shops. I love it. I love books about coffee shops. I love coffee. It's a slaying monsters kind of book. It was just incredible. I've still got to read the prequel, Bookshops and Bone Dust, which I can't wait to read, but I've heard that is not quite as good as this one. And this one blew my mind. It was just so good. It was fantasy. It was just not my kind of normal thing. It was just really, 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 really good. After decades of adventuring, Viv, the Aura Barbarian, is hanging up her sword for good, and she sets her sights on a new dream, opening the first coffee shop in Doon. Even if no one there knows what coffee actually is, if Viv wants to realise her plans, she'll need help from unexpected quarters. This was incredible. It was a great, fun fantasy. I thoroughly, thoroughly loved it, and I would recommend it to everyone who loves fantasies. I didn't think I'd like sort of the... It's very new, like very, very new. It was just really, really good, and I just absolutely loved it. I just thought it was really fantastic, really. And about Viv realising her plans, and it's just like, I didn't know about monsters and slaying monsters and things like that. And when this book came out, I just really didn't think it was a me kind of book, but it was just done so, so well. In at number 10, so we're now in the top 10. A book obviously I had to mention, and that is Secrets of Haven Point by Lizette Orton. It was a Spoodies Readathon group book, and what did it do? It blew my mind. I know that Chatty loved it. I know Kat, my fellow co-host, didn't love it. But for me, it had one of the best disability reps, because obviously this is actually an own voices on the disability rep, and even the author, even the illustrator is own voices. So I think for me, it really did the disability rep portrayal so well. It wasn't about pitting someone. I love the way the characters in this use their disabilities in their favour. They didn't feel sorry for themselves about it. They really did make the best. And Haven Point was like a place where disabled people can go and find somewhere they belong. And as a fellow disabled person, it is very hard to find that feeling of belonging. You're permanently feeling like you're strange or different, and I really felt that this just did it so, so well, and I really loved it. I loved the fantasy element. It did make me cry at points, it did make me laugh, and I thought it was just an amazing book. I have since read her latest book, and I loved that one. I think that was on my wrap-up part 2. Yeah, Lights Up by Lizette Orton. I think it's wrap-up part 2 or wrap-up part 1. and I really enjoyed that, and that had disability rep. So this is really good. I can't wait to read all of this author's work. And if you want a good middle grade fantasy with disability rep, this is great. I heard about this on Jack from Snow Bookjoy's channel, and I would totally recommend you, if you want great books, great middle grade books and recommendations and fantasy recommendations, Jack is brilliant. So go and check Jack out. Then to a book that took me too long to read. I know Charlie from Charlie Book Reads, my sister loved this book when she read it, and I now need to find more of Aidan Thomas's books, because this is an LGBTQI ghouly horror. I read it for Gothtober, and oh my god, I absolutely bloody loved it. It is really interesting, scary at points, really hits home. This is number 9 on my list. About Yadriel, who summoned a ghost and now can't get rid of him. To gain his family's acceptance, Yadriel has to prove himself as a real Brujo, summoning by his cousin's ghost. But when he accidentally summons a ghost of a high school resident bad boy instead, things get complicated. It is really, really good. And I'm sorry this video is very noisy between the cat and the child. But this is a really, really good book. If you want horror that doesn't scare you too much, this is great. If you want LGBTQI romance, this is fantastic, and this is a book I recommend to everybody. In at number 8. I think I will try and read this when I'm in a better place, and this is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I was reading this at the time when Alice was poorly, and probably too close to the end, and this probably broke me into about a million gazillion pieces, and I might want to try reading it when I'm a bit stronger, but it really did. It amazed me. It was such an incredible book, and I probably would have rated it. I think I rated it lower because it was just too hard-hitting at the time. Welcome to Charon's Crossing. The tea is hot, the scones are fresh, and the dead are just passing through. And this, it does talk about death, so that is a trigger. If you can't cope with that, then don't read this. Like I said, I way should have been careful read when I was reading this, but the writing is incredible. TJ Klune does not disappoint. The House in the Cerulean Sea was one of my favourite books the year before that, in 2023, and this just is incredible. When the Reaper collects Wallace from what she claims is his funeral, he's outraged, but Hugo, the owner of a particular tea shop, promises to help him cross over. And Wallace reluctantly accepts the truth, yet even in death he refuses to abandon his life, despite spending all of it working. And as they grow closer, you can guess some twists, you can guess some bits. It is again very much about death, very much about making the most of your life, and I thought this was an incredible written, very good book, and I thoroughly loved it. Now to another book that the author, that I believe I had a favourite book of by this author in 2023. This is Trouble by Lex Croucher. This is the third, I think it's the third standalone. It's the most recent book before, obviously, the fantasy one that's come out that I haven't read yet, which is Not for the Faint of Heart. But this is a book that I heard of from Katie from Books and Things channel. Obviously, I'll be linking Katie's channel below. I'll be linking these channels that I've mentioned below. But this is about a lay character called Emily Lawrence. And then she's not really a governess, she's not polite, she's not polished, and she's never taught as a child in her life. The position was meant to be her sister's brilliant and kind Amy, who inexplicably does actually like children. But Amy is unwell, and Emily must put aside her anger and pretend to be someone she's not, for as long as it takes to earn enough to cover the doctor's bills. So, this apparently is actually Own Voice's disability rep as well. I'm not going to tell you who or where that comes into it, because that would be a spoiler, but the author is actually Own Voices, and I didn't realise that until right at the end of the book. And I read the notes, and I thought that this is incredibly good. She lives with chronic. The author, Lex Croucher, is non-binary. I don't know if they're non-binary. I'm not going to get into that because I don't know for definite. But Lex Croucher is Own Voices. They live with chronic pain, and there was stuff in this book that obviously I loved. There is the bad girl. Emily is not the goody two shoes, and I love that because I'm not a goody two shoes at all. If you ask my sisters, I'm the naughtiest one out of the three of us. But it was done so well. It's a romance. It is fab. It's just incredible. It's Regency, but with a bit of fun. A little bit of sauce, not too much. I just absolutely thoroughly love this book from start to finish. And yes, it's number 7, but it is one that's really struck out. I liked Reputation and the other book, but this I thoroughly, Infamous and Reputation I liked, but this I bloody loved. And I'm keeping the series so I can reread this again and again and again, because it's just that good. All these books I want to reread again, that's why I've kept them. So, in at number, thinking that as always, I think that should actually be above the other book, but we're a bit hish-pish on that. In at number 6, we're getting close to the top 5. You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Kweki Emezi, and this author has smashed it out of the park. And considering I read it in December, it blew my mind. And Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe recommended this book when we went on the London trip in March. And I think a couple of these books were bought in March actually. I think Trouble was bought in March as well. And some others. But there you go. You booktubers are dangerous to me. I liked the Death of Vivek Ojay by this author. And I know for a fact that this author is amazing. This book did again break me into about 1,000 pieces. It talks about death. It did break me. It did shatter me. But it was incredible. Again, lots of saucy stuff in it. But Fei Yi is about to be given the chance to escape the city's blistering heat for a dream island holiday. Poolside cocktails, beach sunsets and elaborate meals. As the sun goes down on her old life, our heroine might be ready to open her heart again to someone new. So, I mean, you talk about death, grief, lots of other things, but it is done so well, so well, and I think this is an incredible writing. This author does not disappoint. I still need to try Freshwater, but I think they're one of their more recent books, Jem said I wouldn't love, but I did thoroughly love this. Now to my top 5. I don't know why I'm telling you the page. I know what order they're in, and that this order is pretty much set in stone till the last minute. So, in at number 5, Tomorrow. I know that Katie from Books and Things said this was one of her favourite books, and this has got so much meaning for me. Basically, I know that Alice loved this book, and this is the last book that I actually spoke to her about when I was reading it. Again, it was done for the Spoonies. It was done, and I got told to read it by Ross from Scally Dangly about the books, because on one of the last trips another book to meet up, she told me to get this because it does have an amazing disability rep. And yeah, this is done so bloody well. I can't describe how good this book is. The top 5, any of these top 5 could easily be favourites because they're all incredible books. And this is the story of Sam and Sadie. It's not a romance, it's about love and it's about friendship. But there is also another character, Marks, that's in it. And Katie describes this book really well, so really go and check out Katie's video about her favourites. When Sam catches sight of Sadie at a brilliant crowded train station one winter morning, he's catapulted back to a brief time they spent together as children, and the spark is reunited. This talks about chronic pain, it talks about other disabilities, and it's done very well. Yes, you're in the gaming world. I think you have to kind of disjoint yourself if you're not into that bit. And I'm obviously not I've never been a gamer. But you have to disjoint yourself from that bit. But this is about friendship, not necessarily love, but friendship. And it is done so well. Talking to Alice about this book was an amazing conversation we had. And I'm truly blessed that I both read that and got to talk to her about it, because it was one of her favourite books of the year when she read it. And this will be a book that will hold many special memories in my heart. And I'm so glad I read it. And I'm not going to cry. Thomas is going, please don't cry. Then in at number 4 is The Trouble with Mrs. Montgomery Hurst by Katie Lumsden. Yes, it's our Katie. Yes, one of her books had to be in the top 5. I'm sorry it's not number 1, but God, this top 5 is blooming close, and you're going to see the cat. This is an enigma. Katie is an amazing writer, and I loved it. Obviously, Thomas, Sweet for recommending it, so Katie Sweet likes it as well. The Trouble with Mrs. Montgomery Hurst is an incredible historical fiction book, and I know it's one of the ones that Katie was so proud about writing. I didn't get a chance to get it signed because obviously when her book came out we were going through stuff, And yeah, this is set in the summer of 1841. It's got references to, if you're a fan of Jane Austen and Elizabeth Gaskell, it's got a lot of good references to those. It's sort of like those people that like those books will love this book. It's a great, fantastic book. It's about a really loved community. For me, it was definitely Jane Austen-esque. It's got amazing characters. The storyline's incredible. Katie is amazing at writing characters that you love. She's got a gorgeous little map of it to start with. Katie can write characters you love and characters that you want to be happy. And Katie can write communities, and she's done it all so well. It's very different from my first book, but very, very good, and I thoroughly loved it from start to finish. If you like the classics, if you like historical fiction, please pick up Katie's work, because she is an incredible, incredible author. And I'm not just saying that because she's a BookTube friend, but she's incredible, so please pick that up. In at number 3, the last book with Own Voice's disability, and this is A Sign of Her Own by Sarah Marsh. This was a book that I was gifted to read by Tandem because I was Own Voices, but that never at any point put a pressure on me to love this book. I love this book because it's got deaf characters, it is Own Voices, it has some sign language at the start. It was one of the first, Tandem did a smashing job of the read on this. So it's actually got some sign language at the start. But it talks about the deaf community in a historical fiction, which I've never done, but I've never heard of before. So Ellen Lark is on a voyage of marriage when she and her fiancé receive an unexpected visit from Alexandra Graham Bell. Ellen knows exactly what Bell wants for her. Ellen is deaf, and for a time was Bell's student in a technique called visible speech, as he instructed her in speaking. He also confided her about a dream about producing a device that would transmit, so basically the telephone. But it does talk about what it was like to be deaf and what it still is like. There's so many things that resonate from the past to the current day, and that is obviously because the author is Own Voices, and I believe she did a lot of research into this. It does talk about sign language, it talks about how to be, what it's like to be deaf. Yes, I'm really partially deaf, but by golly can that have an effect. For me, it is very destroyed. It's very hard being any form of deafness, and I think this dealt with it so well. The way about how we use our lips, the way we talk, the way we do things, the way we treat disabled people, and add the historical fiction bit and add the part about talking about the telephone and what it was like back then. I just think this is an amazing, incredible book, and if you want, it's now out in paperback, I think, and if you want to read about this, then oh my god, you've got to read this. This is an incredible, incredible book. The author is also lovely. She's messaged me on Instagram, and I think she's actually a wonderful lady. I can't wait to see if she brings out another book, because I will buy it automatically. This is an incredible, incredible book. One I thoroughly recommend for everybody. So, the top 2. Thomas is right. Top 2.
I was just slapping my chest.
Well, I'm just doing that. The top 2 have... I thought the favourite book of the year was decided, and then I read the last one. So it got knocked down by one book, but in its second place is Brotherless Night by V.V. Ganeshan. It won the Women's Prize. It was going to be my favourite book of the year, and then there's been a sudden stealing of that prize. It is very close between that and number 1. They are very, very close. But this, especially, stop it, Thomas. This smashed it out of the park. It was, like I said, it well deserved to win the Women's Prize. It deserved to win a lot of awards, and I think it has won other awards. And it was an incredible book. It's historical fiction. Excuse me. If you don't know about this book, then who are you? I read this book and cried my eyes out. I borrowed it from the library and then had to buy my own copy because I wanted my own copy. It couldn't be. It was going to be my favourite book, so I had to blooming have it. So the fact that I've now got it means I can reread it. 16-year-old Sashi wants to become a doctor, but over the next decade, as a vicious civil war tears through her hometown of Jaffna, her dreams spin off course as she sees those around her, including her 4 beloved brothers and their best friend, get swept up in those violent political ideologies and their consequences. Desperate to act, she must ask herself, Is it possible for anyone to move through life without doing any harm? This is a book you need to have your tissues on standby. You need to be careful. It is so bloody good and it deserves to win these awards. It is an incredible written book and it's one that that will not go out of my head. I thought it was going to win the award and yeah, it just deserves every bit of praise. It's a fantastic book. Then, like I said, Thomas now doing this and I've realised my time is running away from me. My favourite book of the year is The Women by Kristin Hannah. It is one of the last books I read of this year and I know Jem from Gemma Books rated it 4 stars, but she said that she thought I would love it. This book was gifted to me by the lovely Ange for my birthday, and it was one I wanted to save till the end, and I'm really glad I did. It destroyed me from start to finish. Kristin Hannah has had another one of her books was The Four Winds was one of my favourite books of the year. I read it. The Nightingale again was an amazing book. The Great Alone I think I liked, but I didn't love it as much. I've still got another book to read that I read in January, which I think I've stuffed up. I think that's probably going to suffer from next book syndrome. This is set in the Vietnam War. The first half to 3/4 of it is set in the Vietnam War, and it talks about the women that went over there to nurse, and one woman in particular. It also talks about what happened when they came home. It talks about you talk about romance. You talk about the men that fought and died in that war. But it also talks about how the women are and how the women got treated when they got back. What they went through as nurses there. And yes, less of them got killed, but they still got affected. And the way they got treated when they got back was bad. And I think this is based again. She's got a lot of fiction. She's got a lot of actual true life information about this book, and it really does. We all know about the first World War I and World War II, but the Americans fought in the Vietnam War and what happened over there was bloody awful and it is no excuses, and this is done flipping well. It is an incredible book and one that I recommend to everybody. It does talk about female rights. It talks about a lot of incredible powerful things. It talks about grief. It talks about depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress syndrome. You've got a lot of triggers in this book and it destroyed me. It was very emotional, very hard-hitting, but very well done. I just think it deserves my award. In my eyes, this really deserves top place. But all of my books in that list are incredible for me. All of those books have got special places in my heart, especially the top 10. And I thoroughly recommend them to everybody. Top 5, you've just got to go and buy. So, what books did you read in 2023? Let me know what your favourite books of 2024 are. I'd love to know. Are there any books of these that I've inspired you to read? Obviously, I'm going to be doing more books on Disability Rep, talking about more books with Disability Rep. That's still something that I'm going to need to sort out on my channel. But if you got to the end of this video, because of the fact that we had the flying cat and a lot of noise from the cat, I'm going to add a random leave a cat emoji if you got to the end of the video, because she's had a big part in it.
Yeah.
If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, not subscribed, ring on my ding-a-ling, and I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.